Hello, my name's Bob Drake, and I want to say hello to my friend Teruo and to all of you who are colleagues in the employment and mental health field in Japan. We commend you for all the excellent work you've done, and I'm delighted to be here today to say a few words about the impact of IPS and employment on people with mental health disorders. I first learned about this when we were asked to evaluate the closure of a day treatment program in New Hampshire. We, because the patients and the family members and the staff were greatly worried that when the day center closed, people would deteriorate and have more problems and go back to the hospital. So I was asked to evaluate this closure. We interviewed all of the patients before the closure occurred, and then we interviewed them again 1 year later. And to my great surprise, all of the patients were doing better rather than worse. I thought about this for a long time, and I ended up concluding that the day center, like our old hospitals, was really an environment that was socializing people into disability rather than helping them to recover, even though the staff thought they were doing the right things with skills training and so on to help them recover. But when we started to look in detail at what the patients were doing, we learned that the majority of them were in competitive jobs, and the others were in other activities that they valued much more than going to the day treatment center. They were going to a health center, they were going to a seniors club, they were going to a club where they played cards, but they all felt like they were enjoying life and more satisfied with their activities. The patients improved and benefited in many ways. It was not just that they were earning something and that they had structure in their day, but they also were developing greater self-confidence, greater self-esteem. Many of them told us that they were really pleased with learning skills and developing more friends in the work environment, that their quality of life was better. And it was also clear that they were better able to manage their mental health illness. That is, they were less prone to have emergencies and crises related to mental health or substance abuse problems. But the benefits extended also to many other groups. Families told us that they were doing much better because their relative had a better job, had a job, was feeling better about himself, wasn't experiencing crises or wanting to go back to the hospital. The employers told us that they were delighted with the change because they realized they had access to a large group of people that they hadn't previously been employing, that people with disabilities were excellent workers, and they wanted to hire more and asked us to help them find more people. People who were running and paying for the mental health system were delighted because it was clear that the clients who were working were not experiencing crises, were not going to emergency departments, were not going back to hospitals, so they were saving money. And finally, our communities benefited because all of the people who were, co-workers with our clients or who were encountering them in the community were developing a better understanding of mental illness. They began to realize that people with mental health problems were just human beings like all the rest of us. They weren't dangerous. They weren't scary in any way. And so it reduced the kind of stigma that we usually see in the community based on false information about mental illness. So in summary, I have come to believe that employment is the best intervention we have for people with mental illness because of all these benefits. People with mental illness just look better and get better and feel better and act in more healthy ways when they're working than when we have them in hospitals or have them in day centers. And I think that extends throughout the community. So I commend all of you in Japan for experimenting with and developing IPS programs. And we very much look forward to working with you and hearing more from you in the future. Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Deborah Becker, and I'm here to speak with you for a few minutes about how people reacted when they first heard about IPS, and then how we responded to some of those reactions. So in general, I think there were three types of reactions. The first one was from people in agencies who said, "Oh, we can't do this. The people that we serve are too sick and we don't want to expose them to stressful situations like employment. So this is just not going to work." The second group of people said, "Oh, we do IPS. In fact, we run classes and we run work activities in our agency to help people prepare for work and get ready for work." And then the third group of people that we encountered said, "We really believe that people with serious mental illness should have opportunities to work and gain the benefits of employment just like the rest of us in our community." So the three reactions were, we can't do this, we already do this, but may not be following the model of IPS. And the third is, yes, we want to do this and we'd like some help on how to do it. And from all these three groups, we did still bump into some people who were skeptical. So clinicians, for example, who've been trained to help people reduce the amount of stress in their lives to feel better and reduce their symptoms, thought, why would we want them to go to work? That just can be stressful. And family members, too, worried about work being stressful for their loved ones. And they remember times when their loved ones worked and had difficulties, and so are unsure about wanting to support that again. And then we have agency providers and leaders of mental health agencies, some who said, why would we want to be doing vocational services? Our focus here is mental health treatment. We provide treatment to reduce symptoms and to recover from mental illness. So now I'm going to speak for a minute or two about how we responded to these concerns. And so for the first one, the people who were saying we can't do this because people are too ill, we tried to give lots of examples of when people had gone to work and did better. Their lives just improved a lot. And we tried to pair them up with programs who were starting to do IPS so they had other people to talk to about it. And we tried to say, maybe you can't do this, but how about if you try a small amount of it and see what happens? Track your outcomes and see if people do go to work. So for the next group that said, we're already doing this, what we did was we say, well, maybe you are, but, let's talk more about what you're doing. And so we would interview people, and sometimes we'd go to their agencies and we would observe what they're doing. And we would look very carefully, are they implementing the 8 evidence-based practice principles of IPS? So, for example, are they helping people to look for jobs soon after they express interest in working, as in IPS? Or are they instead offering pre-vocational services so people were asked to participate in activities to prepare to go to work, which is not IPS? In all the situations, we encouraged people to talk to people with serious mental illness who had gone to work, to see how it was for them. We also, if there was another program nearby, encouraged them to go visit. We also offered training so they could understand what those evidence-based principles looked like in practice, so they could really envision how this could be in their agency, and to help them set up a small IPS team. We're not going to cover the whole agency right off the bat, but we're going to start small and we're going to see how it works. We always encourage agencies to set up an agency implementation team so they can monitor the implementation, and if they bump into barriers to implementing IPS at their agency, that they can think together how they're going to remove those barriers so IPS can be implemented. And we also know that funding these programs is important, so encourage them to think about that, tracking outcomes, and of course getting training so people learn the skills and can build the confidence to do this. The IPS Center has developed a lot of resources that are available to you and to others on our website, ipsworks.org. You can access many materials. We also have training too. And in the 34 years that I've been involved in IPS, I haven't encountered a program, an agency that couldn't do this, that really believed that people with serious mental illness can really benefit from employment. And so I wish you much success in assisting those people who want to go to work with IPS.
Hello, I'm Gary Bond. I'm a researcher at the IPS Employment Center. And today in this short video, I'm going to summarize the research on individual placement and support. So to start, I want to explain that IPS has been extensively studied and continuously studied since its development in the early 1990s. So over the 30 plus years, many studies have been conducted. At least 28 randomized controlled trials of IPS for people with serious mental illness have been completed. And interestingly, in every one of these 28 studies, IPS had better competitive employment outcomes than the control group. Overall, IPS participants averaged a 55% employment rate during the follow-up period, which was twice as much as for the control group. In a large meta-analysis, researchers found that IPS clients worked 4 times as many weeks during follow-up than the control group, so very excellent job retention. They earned 3 times as much in total earnings from employment. They got their first job 33% sooner than the control group. IPS studies have consistently shown that IPS clients are more satisfied with their jobs than do the control group clients. IPS has been replicated worldwide. There have been studies done in North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, including several in Japan. And these studies have generally replicated the findings in the U.S. So the findings have been quite consistent. Recently, there have been a number of studies of IPS in other populations beyond people with serious mental illness. And this includes young adults with their first episode of psychosis. It includes people with substance use disorder, autism, criminal justice involvement. There have been a number of studies of people with common mental disorders like anxiety and depression. and one study of people with spinal cord injury. And these findings have been very encouraging as well. The findings are generally consistent with the main research on people with serious mental illness. IPS is a very flexible model. It's worked in both rural and urban settings, and it's also been found to be effective in many different subpopulations based on client characteristics. It's effective for people who are young and older workers as well. It's been effective for people with a lot of education and those with relatively little education. It has been effective in different cultural groups for people of different races and ethnicity, and people with lots of symptoms, those who have just left the hospital, homeless clients. In all these populations, IPS has been beneficial and more beneficial than other vocational services. The long-term outcomes from IPS have been impressive as well. There have been 5 studies looking at outcomes over a 5 to 12-year period after IPS enrollment. And in these studies, IPS clients are working at follow-up at a pretty high rate. About half of the clients have been steady workers. IPS clients have worked at least 6 months out of 12 every year in the follow-up period. And one large study found that IPS clients maintain employment and over a 7-year period after enrollment, and in fact, their earnings were still increasing after that follow-up period, whereas the control group, that was not true. So in conclusion, IPS is easily the most researched of all vocational rehabilitation models, and the evidence is strong and consistent. You can be confident that IPS is a well-established evidence-based model.
Hi, my name is Sarah Swanson, and I was asked to speak to you today about the future of IPS. I'm excited to talk to you because I hear that IPS is expanding in Japan, and also want to thank you for including me in your conference. So one change I think we may see in the coming year and years in IPS is that it is expanding in new countries in Europe, and it sounds like it's expanding within Japan, it's expanding within the US, it's expanding within Canada and other countries. So IPS seems to just continue to take hold. And there will be a new research project starting in Mexico this summer, which is exciting because there's some interest in helping countries in the global south, which is defined by countries that are not wealthy nations, helping those countries with IPS supported employment. IPS is also expanding to serve new populations of people, which is exciting. There are research projects going on to help people with primary diagnoses of substance use disorders through IPS. And there are also research projects going on to help people who have been chronically homeless in the United States with IPS. We'd like to see how we can help them get their life back on track, not just with housing, but also with employment, so that some people will be able to support themselves financially going forward. There's also interest in helping people who have autism disorder. So usually at least in the United States, we haven't done that much, but there is a research study going on now, and we hope that other researchers will be interested in looking at this as well. Finally, although supported employment has been available to young adults for many years, we'd like to continue studying how we could do a better job for young adults. So there are many programs serving people between the ages of 18 and 25. And people in those programs, those young people, seem very interested in work and developing careers, but we're not seeing a lot of success in the area of education, helping young people with education and training programs. So we'd like to learn how to do a better job in that area. And we may learn from people in the field about how to do that. It may not just be from researchers. In many countries, there have been a growing number of peer specialists who work in mental health agencies. And these peer specialists are people with lived experience of mental illnesses who share their hope with other people. They work one-on-one with people, and they talk about what helped them with their own recovery. They help people consider different ways to overcome barriers to their recovery. They might talk to people about employment or other issues, but they really help people try to envision a better life for themselves. Within the context of IPS, I think we're interested in people who have lived experience of mental illnesses working as employment specialists and supervisors. We know that happens sometimes out in the field, that people are promoted into those positions. But we wonder if it wouldn't be advantageous to really try to encourage that more often. We would think that those employment specialists could help people just the way they would if they were peer specialists in feeling more hopeful about their future, helping people define what it is they want in their life, and also just helping them overcome difficult times. So if somebody lost a job, they might have a peer specialist, an IPS specialist who lost a job because of mental health symptoms or substance use disorder, who could talk to them about, yeah, I've been through that too. It was really demoralizing, but I got a job right away and it really helped me feel better about myself. I don't know if that's the right solution for you. I'm just sharing what worked for me. And I think, it would be really wonderful to have more supervisors and employment specialists who can speak from that perspective. An added benefit to doing that is that we could then hire people with lived experience, a professional salary, instead of the lower salary that peer specialists typically make. It may even be possible to hire people with lived experience who don't have degrees, if that's usually required for the position, and to view their lived experience as so important that it could be substituted for a degree. Another issue to be thinking about in the coming years is the fact that, I don't know if this is true in Japan, but in many countries, there'll be a large mental health center with a tiny IPS program. So there could be 3, 4, 5 IPS specialists and 20 or 25 mental health practitioners. And it just sort of kills me that more people don't have access to IPS services. So I'm not sure what we're going to do to solve that problem. It could be that we need to do a better job of training mental health practitioners so that they know how to talk about work with people. I think asking people, do you want to work, yes or no, can be inadequate. And it helps to have smaller conversations with people over time, just to learn more about what might be getting in their way of working. Are they concerned that they wouldn't be able to hold down a job? Are they worried about the barriers that are getting in their way of working? If they did want to work, what are their hopes for employment? What kind of work would they love to do? It'd be wonderful if we had mental health practitioners asking people those kinds of questions and asking everyone those kind of questions, not just people who seem to be in recovery, but people are struggling with recovery because, as you know, I'm preaching to the choir, but as you know, employment can really help people move ahead in their recovery. Another part of growing IPS services within agencies could be possibly educating family members better. if there are family advocacy groups or individual family members, maybe having materials for family members to pick up when they go to the mental health center. We just need to help them understand more about the kinds of support IPS can provide to people, and also why work is so important to people. It'd be nice if they could hear more testimonies from people who are working about why their jobs matter to them, how their life is different now than it was before they worked, and what they hope to do in the future. Another area that we could consider is learning more from employers. We guess at what we think is helpful to employers, but I don't know that we've really asked employers specifically what helps most. And one idea would be to do a survey of employers to find out who've hired someone from IPS and used IPS supports, what the IPS specialists did that they thought was most helpful, what they wish the IPS specialists could have done, if there was anything the specialist did that maybe wasn't that helpful. I just think we have a lot to learn from employers because they're one of our customers. Just like the people we serve who want to work, these employers are customers too. So we should try to learn from them. Finally, equity, diversity, and inclusion has been an important part of IPS over the last couple of years. We're still trying to learn about how to help people who are part of disenfranchised communities. So that could be people who have been homeless are definitely disenfranchised. People who are of different races, different ethnicities. And so within the learning community, which consists of 25 states in the United States and 7 other countries who are all implementing IPS and trying to sustain IPS, we've been doing a lot of discussion about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and thinking about how to help people really feel comfortable as they receive IPS services, and how to make sure that people are receiving good wages and good jobs, regardless of their race or ethnicity or gender or sexual orientation. So they have put together a steering committee that meets quarterly. They put on webinars on a regular basis to help people learn more about equity, diversity, and inclusion. That's for IPS specialists and supervisors. You're also welcome to join, although it may not be at a great time of day for you. And we've started a page on our website. We've added material about equity, diversity, and inclusion to our online training courses and to our forums. And we'd like to keep working on this issue and not allow ourselves to be distracted by other work. So that will be part of the future of IPS. So thanks very much for having me join you. I hope you have a great conference and learn a lot and meet a lot of new people. Bye-bye.